Hello, Vivian.
Hi, Sebastian.
How about we have fun today and we do the famous Marcel Proust character questionnaire?
Well, that sounds like fun to me.
Okay. So, this questionnaire, for the people who don't know about it, was invented by the noted French author Marcel Proust. So, let's start with the first question.
Okay, ready.
What do you consider your greatest achievement?
I consider my greatest achievement being able to draw after many years of being able to sew and to do embroidery and music, piano, organ, to be able to draw.
What is your idea of perfect happiness?
When you're with another person, listen to them so that you can have a meaningful endeavor. For when you're alone, personal happiness is being able to just do what you want at the time. And if you get tired of it, just put it away, take it out again when you want. Watching my love of sports, baseball, basketball, soccer, even boxing and wrestling, because my father used to take me as a kid, but to be able to experience these things is, to me, personal happiness. And then having the memory.
What is your current state of mind?
My current state of mind is good. I feel grounded. I feel like I can think in my head whatever I want, and I can share it with someone that I'm comfortable sharing it with. I don't want to criticize another one, and I don't want anyone criticizing me.
What is your favorite occupation?
Cleaning and keeping my surroundings orderly and not having to unclutter chaos. I find that cleaning is therapeutic. That while I'm in the motion of it, I just let my mind wander. And then sometimes I'll make a note of something I hadn't thought about in a long time. And I can just do it at my own speed using whatever method I want. And then the result is that it lasts because I did it properly the first time.
What is your most treasured possession?
My laptop. That is my friend. I think it's male. I think that it feels how I feel about what I can do. My limitations on it don't bother me. I feel like that it's my friend 24/7, and that is my favored possession. And it would be too much for anything that bothered it.
What or who is the greatest love of your life?
Is Martin Arnold, my beloved, my paradise, the subject of my writings. I feel the encouragement that he gave me. As I wrote, I feel your breath upon my skin that no matter what I do or where I go, I can have peace of mind with glances back of experiences with him. I feel like, for example, on New Year's Eve, I became a little melancholy watching the TV, and all I could think of was to re-experience the man wrapping his arm around my waist and dancing across the living room floor and singing to me Auld Lang Syne, and how we interacted, and that there was no criticism as to how often did I read the New York Times, or what had I read or hadn't read, and his excitement when he would ask, what are you reading now, or what book do you have with you, or anything that I was doing. And it's been the backbone of my drawing, because I was able to draw him. My main interest in drawing is the body, and he thought it was great that I would draw him. And I took those drawings to class proudly, and I just ignored any comments about drawing a male nude. It never bothered me in the class, with the model, or with the drawings that I had done of him.
What is your favorite journey?
My favorite journey was to Paris. I had gone twice before. Once during my marriage, and then I went with a friend in '93, and then I returned in 2008. And today I still feel the stone streets below my feet. I still can see the bakery that offered in the morning to pack my lunch while I was at art school all day. To be able to use my first language on my own without criticism, and then to make friends that did not think that I was American, because I tried so to be a part of them. My mother was born in Paris and was a model, and came to New Orleans with Maison Blanche. And when I found Maison Blanche, I would stroll through there several times a week, thanking my mother and her face and her hats that she modeled. And I just felt like I was a full person there, that I did not have to lean on somebody for help. And what I didn't know, I'd go in a store and search for something that was similar so I'd know what it was called.
What is your most marked characteristic?
Being loyal and trying to always accept the other person's views, and to try to be thankful and tell the people that I come in contact with, be it a worker in a store that smiles, and after a while they become a little more friendly. And one in particular, I learned the lady in the grocery store is named Vivian, and she's from Puerto Rico. And to see her face when I shared with her that I had been to Puerto Rico, near where her hometown was. And I try not to annoy someone when I need their cooperation. I try to gently explain why I'm calling and consider that this person needs to be recognized because they hold the key to what I need.
When and where were you the happiest?
Oh, I was the happiest in Paris. When I could stop and eat from the bakery or a cafe or a restaurant without anyone making comments about what I like to eat or when I ate because there was a time difference. I felt totally complete being able to go in an art class and listen and have the teacher write the comments in French so that I could completely understand them when I wasn't in the classroom. And I just thought to be able to wander about in and out of the stores or whatever I felt like doing, I could do.
What is it that you most dislike?
Comments about my art, my drawing, the content, what I eat. I am Texan, and I eat the things that I like, but when I go with someone, I make sure, so as not to be an annoyance, that we don't go somewhere where I can't eat the food, because I did have stomach surgery many years ago, and some things I just can't eat, and I don't eat them. And that's why I'm healthy at this age, is because I try to take care of myself, and I try to ignore any negativity around me. I will just walk away. I will just pretend that I don't even think it exists.
What is your greatest fear?
If I had to tell a person that I do not want to go on a cruise ship, I would fear having to deal with the crowd on the ship and being locked in where I could not be free if I didn't want to do something that an activity that I don't want to do. I just don't want to do.
What is your greatest extravagance?
My hairdresser. I don't care what it costs to go and have the hair that I look at 24/7. And I think that includes a haircut and the color and respect for how I would like my hair to be. I don't want it cut short where when I put on a winter cap that there's no hair showing. And I don't want my hair cut short like a man just because I'm old.
Which living person do you most despise?
I think that people that are in the notoriety need to respect all humans and think that in this time we know what is good for the body, we know what's not so good, and we can all make a choice. But for someone to impose their beliefs, to spread this information, because I don't think all people, including myself, can always make the best decision. But to be influenced by someone of importance matters.
What is your greatest regret?
Not following through with what the University of Texas thought that I should be more interested in. I took a journalism course, and I really thought that that's where I belonged. Not taking a theater course and acting, but when I was there was a certain stigma to the people that were in drama, the people that were in engineering, the people that were in classical music. I do not regret my background of piano. I regret not taking more literature and foreign language classes and being more serious in the class, because in the Spanish class I could have been an exchange student to Venezuela, and back in those days a little girl just couldn't do that. And I regret that I didn't have more guidance. At that time, I would go several times to the Rare Book Library and just look, wander about, never knowing that at this age I would be contributing a book that I had hand illustrated while I was reading to a rare book collection. However, I guess at that time it was just for girls to be a mother and a wife and a homemaker, and that was about it.
Which talent would you most like to have?
Oh, to go back to my violin and to fiddle. And I had several years of violin with the second chair violinist with the Houston Symphony. And she would say to me, "You just make the scales sing." I thought, oh, okay, but I did not know that I was really being creative. And she was into 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and no variation. And then I decided that I wanted to fiddle to my favorite song, "You Are My Sunshine." And I found a guy that fiddled with a band, and I went for lessons, and I was able to duet with him, and he invited me to go to the dance hall to play with him, telling me, "Don't worry, you just play along." And as I announced that, my mother threatened disowning me, and the car keys from my husband were taken. And I just closed that book and moved on. But I still think about it. And to protect me, when I came to New York, so that I couldn't think about it, I had limited funds and I needed medical care, and I gave my internist my 2 violins for medical care. And I knew then that I would not want to go and play with a group again, or to go. That's a talent that I would have developed, because every time I turn on the TV and I see somebody fiddling, I just feel it in my whole body.
Where would you like to live?
I would like to live in Paris. I would like to go back to those streets. I would like to be able to get on that train early in the morning and return on the 4:30 train from London and go back into Charles Dickens' little house and go back in there to see that chapel and just draw my heart out to where Jean Cocteau drew on all of the walls, to go back and see Arthur Rimbaud's signature, to partake of activities at the South Bank Center Library, to go back to Paris, and while I'm there I can take the train to Brussels and I can just eat until I can't eat any more of the waffles, and fill a bag to eat for the next day or two, whether they're day old or not. They were still delicious to me. To be able to partake of that life. I felt safe there. I didn't feel uncomfortable. Now, I must say that I did not partake of the tourist areas. I was strictly around the West Bank and the art school and daytime. And I miss the day that I found people reading out in the park, and I could stop and listen, to go back to the trail of Arthur Rimbaud and the Paul Verlaine Museum and in Metz, and to go back to the Pompidou in Metz. And the only thing I never got to do was to go to Lourdes. And I always hoped that I would get there, but I was busy with this other, and I just felt like I left my heart there when I returned to Paris with Sebastian. I knew that was my home.
What do you regard as the lowest depth of misery?
Divorce. I think it's crippling to the soul. I think that the whole process is miserable.
What is the quality you most like in a man?
To be interested in me. Not just my blonde hair or what I can and can't do, but what is it that makes me is the greatest quality. And a man into culture, or whatever his interest, but a genuine interest in me. And if he asks me a question and I answer it, to be able to communicate about it without being critical or asking ridiculous questions.
What is the quality you most like in a woman?
Is to be able to listen to someone and express your opinion without being nasty or critical or just letting it go by and not asking a simple question so the person can interact with another one.
What is the trait you most deplore in yourself?
Knowing that that as much as I can use the time while I'm cleaning or doing household chores, that often I think this is just robbing me of some time that I could be walking, reading, writing a poem, drawing, or doing something else. But I have this strong urge to not let it get bad, because if I do, then the next day I'm going to have to address what I didn't do. And it's easier to finish what you start before the day ends than to meet it again in the morning.
What is the trait you most deplore in others?
Having no consideration for anything else except themselves. The phone, the dog, the carriage, their need to be in a rush and think that I'm not important, to have consideration that there is another person there other than you.
What do you most value in your friends?
A phone call. I just enjoy hearing another's experiences, thoughts, maybe what's concerning them at the time, and I think, and someone asking me, would you like to go along, join in what they're doing? That's what's most important to me. And I love an email too.
Who is your favorite hero of fiction?
I love James Lee Burke. He writes, as I learned in Paris, he's a policier writer, and all of the police books are neatly shelved together. He writes about being a policeman in Louisiana and in the area where I came from in Beaumont, and he was a recipient. I don't know if he ever received the Pulitzer, but he has received distinguished writing awards. And I was reading a book of his, And my beloved Martin Arnold said, I presented him with his award. And then I even put some pages of his book into a little poetry book that's at the South Bank Center Library.
Who are your heroes in real life?
Bob Dylan. I remember seeing Bob Dylan when he first came to Austin, Texas, at Threadgill's on Wednesday nights. Was the beginning of the musicians, including Janis Joplin, sang there. And other than Bob Dylan, I like Clint Eastwood and all of those cars and action. And Marlon Brando on his motorcycle. Now my hero is Messi, the soccer player, because I'm into doing a soccer activity, handmade artist book, and when it comes to Spanish writers, I think of Julio Cortázar and his short stories. And in Paris, I visited the Julio Cortázar library that had his typewriter and a lot of his works.
Which living person do you most admire?
The French essayist Jean-Luc Steinmetz that I met at the Proco Cafe with Arthur Rimbaud's family when he was speaking about Arthur Rimbaud. I most admire him for living all of his life in northern France, and about his writings of the great French writers, his accomplishments of all of the awards, of being able to write essays, poetry. And I'm most admiring for being a real person that you would never know that he did what he's done. He doesn't criticize your level of interest or whatever, and how easygoing he is about how he was able to handpick his students, and told me that it was because they had a special ability. It mattered not the level of their academic achievement. They didn't have to be a master's degree or a PhD from another university. And he was just a person to be with. He was interested. You go in a museum with him and he was interested, and he appreciated whatever was translated for him when visiting an American museum, and in English, because he didn't feel comfortable with his knowledge of English. And for you to do the best job you could to explain what it is that the item is or what's going on. How organized he was, always with a plan, and always with his little book taking notes, and how he could gently make sure by jotting a few words down and you responding in French that he knew you understood what was being said.
What do you consider the most overrated virtue?
Where you went to school. I think that schooling is or provides you with a box of tools that you have to use to navigate the world. And whether you went to Harvard, the University of Texas, or Cambridge, or anywhere else that we place too much value if someone says that they went to a certain school, that they are of a certain level, because they may not be. It all has to do with how the person internalized what was presented to them in academia. I think it's important to have an education, but I also think it's important to be knowledgeable of the world about you. How to navigate public transportation, how to stay abreast of what's important in science and math and media, film. I think that's what the universities and education is about, but it's not. I don't think because you have the name of a prestigious institution that you're automatically well educated.
On what occasions do you lie?
Only if I think it is not harmful to the subject at hand. For example, I'm not lying, I just don't tell people that I can't go in to church because of the crowd and because of my nosebleed, because here we're bringing back criticism. If someone says to me, do you still go to church? I say yes, because in my mind, I go to church in myself. And I just don't want to have to go into a rigorous explanation as to why I don't actually go in there, especially since the pandemic, with the odor of cleaning supplies that can cause me to sneeze and possibly aggravate my nose to want to bleed. And so, and the nosebleed is another reason that I can use it if someone is asking me to go to the movies. Well, why haven't you been to the movies? Well, I said, I've just been busy. Then sometime, if it's someone that I'm a little closer to, I'll say, well, I don't really feel that the air is clean, and I prefer not to aggravate my nose. Well, I'm opening myself up to, there's this, that, and the other that you could buy in the self-medication department in a store. Well, here I go. So then I may just lie that my nose was acting up, or I was busy when I really wasn't and wanting to go, but I'm skirting the negativity of revealing your true self from criticism.
Which words or phrases do you most overuse?
I'm trying. I try.
If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
Well, sometimes I think about, well, if I didn't have blonde hair, I wouldn't be noticed in the street. But another hair color, even light brown, does not work very well with my blonde hair skin tone. What else would I change about myself? Maybe extending myself more to go to events like book readings and poetry readings and maybe some community activity or let's see what else. I have no interest in playing pickleball, so I'm not going to go. When a friend said to me, wouldn't you just love to go? It's outdoors, it's fun. And I said, no, I don't think so. But no, I'm not going to change. I don't think any more than maybe. Oh, and maybe, no. I'm just really at peace with myself. I have made peace with myself from everything that has come before me that didn't suit me.
What are your favorite names?
If I could add a name to me, I would call myself Lillian. I like that name. I don't know where, but I just like it. And I think Emily, my middle name. Constantly, my mother reminded me that when I was born, the hospital misspelled my middle name. It should have been Emilie, like my grandmother, but they wrote Emily, and in those days they wouldn't change your name or the spelling. So I think back to rename myself, I'd call myself Emily, my middle name. And it could be Emily Vivian. But I have also been told that people like the sound of Vivian Emily O'Shaughnessy.
How would you like to die?
Well, I don't. Well, I know how I don't want to die. I don't. And it's written, I do not want the plug pulled on me. So wherever I go and I'm called home is fine with me, be it here or in the street or the hospital or wherever. But I just don't want to have life taken away from me, nor could I take life away from someone else. I even have difficulty with the plants, house plant. If I have one and I just really don't want it anymore because it's just grown and I'm just maybe tired of it, but I don't tell the plant I'm tired of you and I wish you'd die. But I have difficulty putting it in a plastic bag. I usually find someone that would like to have a plant and pass it on.
If you were to die and come back as a person or thing, what do you think it would be?
As a person in theater, doing a one person monologue, playing the saxophone. I had 12 years of piano, and I had about 6 of organ, and I had about 3 years of accordion, and I played violin for about 6 years. Had no interest in trying the guitar, but I like the sound of a sax. And I think if I had to come back as something, I'd just like to be a sax up on the stage, doing monologue and just free. Free like when I'm standing at the wall, drawing to some music or drawing what I'm thinking about without any plan, plan before I draw.
And for our last question, what is your motto?
Try to make the best of it, no matter what it is. If you cook something and it didn't turn out to taste like I thought or wanted it to, make the best of it and tell yourself, you know what? No one's perfect.
Thank you, Vivian.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It was enjoyable.
I'm glad. Thank you.